Sir, how much time, sir? I think. Sir.
Maximum 10 minutes.
Maximum 10 minutes you can take.
Thank you.
10 minutes.
Thank you. Sir,
see, education. Education as examination, time limit is fixed. That we cannot exceed. Therefore, 10 minutes you have to answer that. You participate.
Yes. Thank you, Deputy Speaker, sir, for being so kind. And while taking part in the discussion on the demands for grants under the control of the Ministry of Human Resource Development, we heard learned professors. There could be, I thought I could tell that there is a clash of interest because he's a professor and he's speaking on education. So there is very many vested interests that come into play. I know, I understand. No, I'm praising you, sir. Sir, everybody has been talking you have been in this house for so long, you have seen so many governments come and go, but you stay on for a long time. You have stayed on for a long time. Sir, you noticed that even in the last two governments, during Vajpayeeji's time, when you were a minister, you've seen, sir, everybody was talking about IITs, IIMs. We want them in our states. We want them in Bhubaneswar. We want them in Madras. We want them in Tiruchirappalli. Everywhere there were demands for higher education. At the same time, if we go to any builder from Bombay to Bhubaneswar, from Srinagar to Trincomalee, any builder will tell you that unless the foundation of the building is strong and you build a weak, and you build an Empire State building on a weak foundation, what will happen is the building will come collapsing down on all of us. That means on society, on the system, on democracy, on this very august house. We have completely ignored primary, elementary level education. I am, for one, not at all interested in advocating higher education because people who go in for higher education are already considered rich people who can afford higher education. They can go and study wherever they like. It is the child, the hardest to reach. I would like to quote a gentleman who has worked wonders in this country, but sir, we would not have ever heard of him also had he not been given a Nobel laureate by some white people living in Europe, I think. His name is Kailash Satyarthi. And what does Mr. Satyarthi say? He says, education is under threat because donor governments have failed our children time and again. Isn't it a pity that in today's knowledge-driven world, less than 4% of global aid goes for education? I was one of the founding members of the high-level group on education in UNESCO in 2001. I underlined again and again that until we address the issues of hardest to reach children, we cannot achieve the rest of the Millennium Development and Education for All goals, unquote. So today what do we see? We see images of parents trying to scale up 2 floors, 3 floors also. It has happened not only in Patna, not only in Bihar, it has happened in UP, it has happened in Orissa, it has happened all across the country. Parents are scaling up the walls to pass on cheat sleeps. You know, some people call them cheat sleeps. They are to their wards so that the kids can pass. The desire is somehow to pass. We see over and over again in many states how question papers are being leaked. And education has become a multi-billion now, again, dollar, because Indian rupee has been banned. So it has become a multi-billion dollar business in India all over. And what we see is a complete lack of roadmap, a complete lack of vision as to how we want to address this problem. And we only talk about India being a very youthful country, and by 2020 or 2025 we will have 65% who will be below the age of 35. But sir, that kind of a situation is not exclusive to India. If you go to Vietnam, if you go to Malaysia, if you go to African countries, everywhere the youth is very visible. It's not something exclusive to us. We are just happening to have a huge population. But that could be a major drawback for us, because a whole horde of young boys and girls, completely uneducated, completely unaware, and completely unconscious, they will become a social problem, not a social asset. And because of this, this refusal to understand, consecutive governments have not tried to address the problem with any policy guideline. Sir, if you see, this country has had excise officers on a, on a central service thing. You have had income tax officers have a central service. You have had IAS officers, IPS officers. All these are central services. You have a whole horde of these people which has central services. But somehow our founding fathers never thought it fit that teachers should also probably could be part of a civil service where a certain level of training and retraining would keep them up to mark of at least national standards, if not international standards. We would need teachers to be trained in effective ways where they can, they can encourage curiosity and not just rote learning. What is happening in our schools today, whether it is the ICSE system or the CBSE system, it is just a question of whether you want to be an officer, you want to be a job seeker, that means in other words you want to be a servant, then you get into these systems, you are forced to learn and remember things, and once you give an exam and if you manage to pass, that is the end of education for our children. And that is primarily because we are not training teachers per se on how to impart such a feeling to students that they should be encouraged in posing questions, in challenging everything, in not challenging the law or this Mr. Damodar's Modi government, but I mean challenging nature, challenging society, challenging set beliefs, and wanting to discover life for themselves. We are completely doing away with that kind of a thing. In contrast to this system, which is prevalent in India, and I think some few members in this house, not much from the treasury benches, but in the non-treasury benches, I am happy to see. Sir, you will speak means there will be reaction. Let me speak. Sir,
they love you.
Sir, this is not my time, sir. No. I am impartial. No, sir. I am impartial. Deputy Speaker, sir. I am impartial and therefore I am in a more elevated position than them. But apart from that, everything is all right. I accept you, sir. Sir, against this system that is prevalent.
Tathagata is always impartial. Tathagata always blessed with closed eyes.
Tathastu. Sir, Deputy Speaker, sir. Sir, I would like to say that against this kind of an education system that we are seeing in India, where we are making our children just ratify, just learn and just remember, and then once you give the exam and you pass, you can forget it. We have a system which is already in vogue, and I would request the ministry and the Honorable Minister, she is a young person, she has vision, and she has the tenacity to, to fight for her cause. Now, not that there is any injustice towards her, we agree with her, but she has the ability, I think, that she can probably project a different image to this whole system. she can study the Finnish school system, which is a very interesting case study. This system gives the children freedom to study what they want and in a way they want to learn. That country, Finland, is changing the way it teaches students. Finnish schools will be placing less emphasis on individual subjects like math, history, geography, and will instead focus on broader, more interdisciplinary topics. The goal, according to Finnish education leaders, is to provide students with the necessary skills for a more technological global society, which their Honorable Prime Minister very much has been emphasizing very much, that we need to change the way that people see this country, that we in this country behave. So this is a system which is already in place, and it doesn't need much imagination to go and study how they are doing it, which we are just ending up by giving money for Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, where all that you do is build school rooms, you build boundary walls, you build courtyards, but you are actually not investing in the HR part of the department, of the ministry. You are only investing in infrastructure, where there is a craze for infrastructure, I understand that, but by building these infrastructure, you are not really giving anything substantive to the children. I would refer to the UNESCO's Education for All EFA report released by the HRD Minister on April 9th. It mentions that there is a strong preference of parents for their children to go to private schools to learn in English for better job and life opportunities. It also notes the disparity across states in the learning outcome. This finding is supported by the National Achievement Survey of Grade 3 students released by the same ministry in 2014. The swelling, sir, another problem we have, in my state also, we have had an instance of a young lady called Itishri, the kind of trouble, and she lost her life because of that. The swelling number of contract teachers and teacher absenteeism is something that nobody is paying attention to. Contract teachers are no offense meant to any group, but they are generally undertrained and they do not have the ability to teach. They are not trained. So therefore, I would like to quote here, contract teachers have poorer working conditions, job security and salaries than permanent teachers. They are more likely than civil servant teachers, that is permanent teachers, to have either no training or less than 1 month training. So in this sort of a situation, what we see is, again quoting from the UNESCO report, in 2013-14, 47% of teachers in Jharkhand, this is an example of Jharkhand, were on temporary contracts compared with less than 2% in Karnataka. The rate of teacher absenteeism in primary education exceeded 20% during 2004 to 2011. There have been substantial expansion of low-cost private schools in developing countries, including India, and with little evidence that private schools offer innovative ways to improve quality. So private schools do not necessarily mean that the kids coming out of those schools are better. This is one thing, sir. Before you ring the bell and before you ask me to wind up, you know how disciplined I am, sir. I would like to mention one thing, sir. This concept that Hindi and Sanskrit, that the minister is so passionate about, I appreciate that, yes, it is an Indo-Germanic language. You can go, it's an Aryan language, and those of us, many of us here who are not Aryans, are not bothered so much with Sanskrit. We would prefer that, first of all, you let our children choose what language they want to learn. Do not dump any language. I do not believe there is any Rashtrabhasha. Hindi is not my language. Neither is it your language. First thing, sir. And you know, the first language-based riots in India, for which many people had to sacrifice their lives, started in the Dravidian kingdom, the Dravidian empire of Tamil Nadu before it was Tamil Nadu, and it was an eye-opener for the rest of the country because we realized the importance of our mother tongue. Now what is happening, sir? There is no investment going in to improve on the quality of education in different Indian regional languages. There is no investment going in to improve on the quality of tools such as books and other aids to education which are complementary to regional languages. Therefore, we are very surreptitiously trying to kill regional languages in such a manner that there is no further investment. State governments, whatever little they give, but centrally, without a policy, we are not encouraging regional languages. I would request the minister and the ministry through you, sir, before you wind up, that first of all, I would be very happy if the central school quota is please deleted. It is a big headache. There are 300 applicants, 362 applicants applying to me this year, and I only have 6 quota. Then they bring their children, tiny children. They tell me, you don't like me. What has this child done to you? Why do you hate the child? Please put the child in the central school. So I would request that this quota should go. I abhor this central school quota. And secondly, I would say that the minister must concentrate on finding sources to fund regional languages so that please, sir, कमाना चाहता हूँ, बंद करना चाहता हूँ, clear, हाँ, quota, पूरा, सब quota. That is my opinion. Sir, I am speaking about myself. Sir, I would also request that special emphasis must be placed so that children up to class 7 are made to learn at their own pace the subjects they like, and their mother tongue must be made attractive to them. The central government must invest money in creating infrastructure, not buildings and roads and classrooms, but by bringing out books which have no religious tilt.
Power should go.
Okay, right.
No religious involvement should be there. No religion is greater or no religion is inferior to any other religion. It is all the same sham. I would suggest that regional languages, starting with Tamil, which is an international language, you have such a wonderful conference there, with Orissa, Bengali, Assamese, Marathi, Gujarati, because everything is now a Gujarat model. So, sir, Kannada, Telugu, Malayalam, Bengali I mentioned, all languages. Okay. Sir, I am saying all languages, there has to be investment so that the tools are improved and we can actually improve education at the elementary and the...
No, you don't divert the thing. Let him.
नहीं कोई link language has to be English. Link language cannot be one language. We are...
No, that point is...
Sir, my thing is English is no more a foreign language. India has an edge today in the world because we have English to speak. You cannot go and talk in the northeast in some Indian language, or you cannot go to Orissa or Tamil Nadu and speak in some North Indian language. English can be accepted. That is why China, whom we keep on referring in this country, starting from GST2 on every subject, China is compelling its youngsters to learn English in a massive way. Today, they are saying that the Chinese students learning English, their population is greater than the population of United Kingdom.
Okay, right.
So, sir, I would wind up by saying that there has to be more investment in Indian languages, and steps have to be taken that within a period of 2 years, we produce books, we produce material whereby children can be taught their mother tongue in a much better way, and do not allow any one North Indian language to kill and stifle all languages. And please pay attention to the elementary and primary school education. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Regarding the